guessing. It's like I saw you in my dreams, like a movie full of scenes. So let me talk to your soul. I don't mean to interrupt love, I don't mean to impose. Give a penny for your thoughts, give your love for your trust. Or a tub full of hearts, got me running for your love, got me waiting on your touch. We connect like a plug. Yes, the sex is so amazing, yeah, the sex like a drug. You are the perfect one, like a hand to my glove. Is this really what you want? Because if you want it, it's yours. We spend days in the mall, we spend nights in the club, the diamonds and the pearls. We got the club on fire, this for my favorite girl. No, I ain't just saying things or playing games, this real love. No, this real trust. No, you can't fake love. You can feel it in the touch. You are the only one. Now all we ask is true. All we ask is trust.
I give you my all. I give you the sun. Got a question for you, baby. Can you tell me how you feel? Can you tell me if it's real? I don't know what's the appeal. And somebody that won't love you like I will. Gotta pick it up, run this shit like drills. If that's what it takes, hanging out all late like a talk show. If love was for sale, yeah, I know you buy some. Take you away from him, I ain't got no option. If that's what it take, cause you know I ain't stopping. Same time I'm not chasing, got too many options. Skin soft and you sunbathing, charging up your chakras. Money combos only, hate when I feel.
And check out all the incremental sciences. Incremental sciences, they're available. So many different ones, all the way up to 32. So go to my Patreon and sign up today and get on these incremental sciences, because I drop a lot of knowledge and I do actual artwork for you to see what's going on and get the in-depth understanding of what's going on and what we're dealing with yourself. Naga.
I am Naga. Can you hear me? I am Naga. And I'm live. The title of this is Some Accounts Seem Unreal. I'm only doing the YouTube stream tonight because that other stream be messing up. Give me 1 second. So so I be seeing stuff, right? Like I be seeing little things, I be reading different shit. And I tell y'all, like, the way I study is I study off of the value of intention. Like, people gonna say shit all day, but what they say is not actually what they mean. You know what I'm saying? Like, most time people want to hurt you, so they are sarcastic. You know what I'm saying? Or people want to belittle your value, so they speak to you in certain ways, or they try to speak to you in ways of lack thereof. Lack there is the intelligence that you may or may not have, right? I know this. Like, I grew up with imparities, so I had to learn how to listen and watch people in certain ways to garner or understanding on what they say. This took me a long way. So I was watching something earlier, and I actually knew this already that they had like 52 to like 60 miles worth of actual written text on the past references of what we don't know as far as what we do know in aspects of spirituality. I know this. One thing that did bother me about the information that I knew from the time of old, and they never repeat this, the literal battle that divine the highest ranking divine beings that were in physicality had with demons. They don't tell you about this story. They don't even put this in a retrospect for you to study. And that's super important because it will speak to a lot of things that we deal with today and how people think and believe today. You got higher beings here that exist in flesh that don't care nothing about your everyday living. You needing to eat and drink water and exercise and have medicine for your children. Like there's beings that exist here that will never ever care about that because that's not what they need to sustain their life. They don't need that. They'll never need that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's because they've been defeated by divine before. And when they were defeated by divine before, their first penalty was to get their mouths closed. So their mouths was closed and their contract to the esophagus and the stomach and the defecation was actually closed off. So a lot of these beings, they don't use their mouths how we would use our mouths, but they're still granted to be here. They've been granted to be here, right? Everything is created by divine, whether it's created directly by divine or in happenstance, right? This is a fact. So I'm looking forward to another level of information coming in. Like we always talking about the end, like it's the end. Where there's always endings that are taking place. These endings that take place are subsequent values of mentalities, right? It's certain levels of your mind shutting down, right? That's what that is. Your mind stops. You know what I mean? Like something's pulling at me right now, and I it like literally stopped me on what I was actually. It's like I said, your mind stops, and that was it. I'm like, wait, that's not all of it. It's not just your mind stops. That's not just what it is. But that's weird because I felt that energy. It's like almost like in a cup. Like I felt it like they was trying to put pressure, but that shit is weak. It's funny. It'll be tickling me when they be coming at me all hardcore. Don't let him speak. He cannot speak now. I got problems, yo. I got problems in this world like everybody else. I have issues that I need to fix. I don't mean personal issues with me. I mean like values I need to get in order so that I can be more a better individual, right? The basics. And what I know about the war is the divine shut off access to the basics of these beings. They wasn't able to uh you know, communicate the same ways, eat the same ways. They didn't have the freedom of being under the sun as everything else did anymore. And because that was something that took place, ultimately, uh, we were removed from this as a particular knowing of knowledge because they knew if they removed the teachers of this knowledge, then the offspring would not know this, and the offspring would potentially be. Hold on one second. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me. That was the Most High giving me a blessing just now. I'm over here like, thank you, Father. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, Lord. The Most High just giving me a blessing just now. Shit, I'm like, oh, man. You know, it be rough, yo. It be rough, but I keep my spirits up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I keep my spirits up despite, you know what I'm saying, how things be feeling or how I be looking. You know, and I guess people be wanting me to be worse off or looking worse off than what it is or whatever. But I ain't never been fond of horror movies and shit. Like, and that was my next point to the value. Like, you know, the world has been trying to get us comfortable with like scary shit. You know what I'm saying? Like things that don't look that don't look right. You know what I'm saying? It was like if y'all don't remember, y'all remember the movie Hellraiser and like Pinhead and they had like the box that they would have and that box would move and then the monsters would come out of hell or whatever, and they would like rip your skin up, and they'd be like the ultimate pleasure is pain and shit like that. That crazy movie. You remember how scary that movie was? Well, the last movie shit. It was like they had an air to it to make you sympathize with the demons and their actions by add a level of trying to add a level of like the demons had a point or whatever. Like they were really good in some aspects, so they tried to like make the feel of value towards them. And I've been noticing about a lot of things, like when it comes to like Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, you know what I'm saying, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, all the scary murderers and all this. They even like demon movies or whatever, like they try to put an air of they try to change the narrative to where you would be more interested in it and have sympathy for that in your heart because you're used to it now. Who would want to create who would want to pitch that as a narrative though? Like where does that idea come from? Like how would you sympathize with demonic energy? I don't give a damn how the story plays out. Why would you want to do that? Like why would a director actually put that into a movie scene or a script, right? And that shit gets crazy weird. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be in this particular type of mentality. I'm going to look at this way. And I remember being terrified of the intention of the value as a kid. Like I was terrified like of watching some of this shit. And I would see some of my family members, they'd be ready like it's just a scary movie. Oh, let's watch it. And I'm like, let's watch it. No, I'm scared. Like why do you want me to watch that if I'm telling you I'm terrified? You got to get over your fear. Get over what fear? Get over the fear of a mentality of something that somebody's putting together in the world. You should never have to get over that. You should be mindful of the way people think. Divine is going to protect you from the unknown and known. And that's something that took a long time for me to actually comprehend because you're going to be walking around in the unknown expecting something to happen, right? And that's pretty much how fear becomes a value. But I know that for a fact there are texts that expand over 60 miles long that explain spirituality at a different time. I've also heard ancient, ancient elders speak about a great war between the greatest divine beings and demons. And divine energy itself was called upon from the highest divine being to smite these demons. He literally called down a wave of divine energy from the heavens and smashed all the demons at once. And when they it's like it wasn't like a decimation though. It was because you gotta understand divine frequency. It wasn't a decimation. It wasn't like, oh, divine came through and smited everything at one time. It wasn't like that. It was like the judgment that was caused. So when they called judgment for the acts that they did, their tongues was ripped out, their throat and solidification to their stomach was removed. Everything that they would use to get this energy into play was taken from them. This is where this value or this law was actually created, as if what you give out to the universe now is what you will get back. That's what judgment came from. It came from that war in particular. Why would divine beings who are in line with divine need these rules? What was left behind to have to match up to these rules? And what was going to be tempted by what was left behind to have to fight for these rules? It gets deep. These stories get deep, and they're not going to release these texts to you. They're not going to say, hey, let's read about this that happened back in this day because this is what the real energy was going on. They're not going to do that. They're going to watch you live the way you live, and they're going to play out particular roles. They're going to play out these particular roles, and these roles that they're playing out, they ultimately these roles that they're playing out, they're ultimately garnering a level of aspect to it. So it's like saying, well, since it's already this messed up, let us go out and do this, that, and the third. If they want to come with us, let them come. Who's going to stop it? By the time somebody calls, you have to process everything. This is why the system is made by paper. So it's like it was a process that gave time. See, if I show you murder from this part of history, right? And only thing that murder was at this part was a rock bash in the head and you was dead in front of everybody. Nobody did nothing. They ate you. Little years go by. You had to be a little more sneakier to have the murder happen because somebody was going to say, hey, no, they're doing that to Farmer Joe. Hey, no, they're messing with the butcher. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had to stop that energy. So now it becomes a little more manipulative. The narcissist energy comes into play. The one that wants to be the one viewed, but not adequate enough to stay viewed. You have Loki, the Thor story, the one that doesn't pay attention to anything but is strong and beautiful, and the one that pays attention to everything that wants attention, but not as adequate as the one that's strong and beautiful. The universe it keeps stripping these values down. It keeps stripping them and stripping them and stripping them and stripping them and stripping them until there's nothing left. The more they strip down and they strip down, you keep getting the inner light subsequent value of the larger light that's put inside. So this is you wasting the light. After all of these years, and this has been going on over and over and over, the light still develops somewhat of a shell, just like the seed inside of a shell that develops the nut on the outside. You know what I mean? So it's developing that nut on the outside to protect it, to hold that little bit of light that's left that would allow that seed to grow into a plant and bear fruit. We don't look at it this way, though. We cannot see this as a reality because we are too busy holding on to particulars. Why are they hiding 60 miles of knowledge? I beg to differ that it's the fact of its a biblical transcend. Divine would never let that energy be left in the hands of the people who are left here. I can't see that being the truth, but I can see divine instilling his knowledge into beings that with that energy or that light will be needed in a future tense when left alone with these subsequent values would happen from that war. They don't tell you about that war. They just tell you about the floods. They tell you about true bloods and all of this. Well, you got to keep in mind this was a demon trying to cross with an angel to gain more power to battle divine. It's always been that. As this is why they told you the story of Nephilims, and they wanted to give you the aspect of the cross reference, but divine stopped them from reproducing anyway. That means you can't eat, you can't talk, you can't you can't you can't do nothing. You can't ish, you can't piss, you can't do nothing. So you're this being that's here to have to wear these bodysuits just to fit in with reality because you can't do nothing else. So they create things to do things to you. They create processes. You have to understand what the torture is for. It's not for them. They don't get no blood, they don't get no chunks of meat, none of that. Why do you think they wanted to serve you animals that was disturbed? Why do you think they told you that the nervous energy from the meats you would be digesting and you would potentially start being nervous and act these scary ways that the animals are acting? Why you think that was a particular? Because you're not feeding them with your flesh. You're feeding them with your frequency. And sometimes the fear is so great within man, it stays within your body parts. It stays in your lung, it stays in your organs, it stays there. It's a vibration. It's almost like when you're shaking and you're terrified. You ever seen a brother or sister so scared that they shaking? They're terrified. That frequency now is inside that flesh. And once that flesh has it, it's a memory in there. Now I can take that cut of flesh and I can connect it to two wiring synapses and I can charge that flesh up and get that emotion from it probably 50 times over. This is how they're being fed. They need to keep you in a fear mongering aspect. The more you see things happening around the world, the more you got niggas running on. Let me tell y'all this. Y'all need to be ready because they gonna do this to y'all. And y'all. Them niggas is aliens to they damn self. Niggas big time Draconians. Big time Draculas over there. Like they be the main ones. I be like, yo, shut up. The only thing you do is promote fear. You promote so much fear, don't be mad when that same fear you promote happens to your family close to you. So now you can stop running, go tell everybody what to be afraid of. You should be telling them to strengthen themselves within divine because nothing can come against you when you with divine. Why am I running, go tell you this? Because I want you to be afraid of what I'm saying in the system, opposed to being strengthened by the creator. This is the process. This is the things that has been happening and has been taking place for years. And nobody wants to say, well, you know what, I noticed these things. You rather just be wrapped up in the mentality of being afraid. And fear is a thing that actually takes place. People are so afraid just to be afraid, and that became a concept in itself. We don't come from that. We come from the class of the individuals that represent and can harness the power of divine, that literally can stop your existence. You can still live here and suffer, but you're only gonna eat off the screams of the people who decided to side with you. That will be your food source. The individuals who sided with you to go against divine and his children will be your food source. I hope they live long enough. So you find today merging off, and then they give you the story. They tell you at the end of days, this is what's going to happen. You start to watch people run behind this value. You start to watch people literally fight to suffer. They're fighting to save suffering. Think about what I'm saying to you. It gets very perplexing, and I know it goes over a lot of people's head because you have a slight understanding to a true value. It's almost like, nah, yeah, I see that, but it's not. Well, you're being apt to change for you to be able to deal with that in that type of way. This is pieces of you being stripped out. This is what happens to your empathy. It gets pulled out. The strands are being ripped out like somebody's ripping it out of the computer. And now we don't have access to that anymore. Then you start wondering why you don't feel as strong as you did to certain things. Why this don't feel and this don't feel like that. Why you don't care about this and why you don't care about that. Why you think you gotta go harder, why you just throwing away yourself. Divine would never. Why would divine create something for everything to use? Do you think that's an attribute of divine thinking? Do you think divine put you here to be tried and tested and tasted by everything in existence? Do you think divine designed you to even want to be in existence that way? To want to try and taste everything? To want to take from everything? To want to have this evil energy inside your heart and then subsequently lie about the value being affected. Divine never had that in plan. But yet we still have these conversations as if they have a main point of conversation. We still fight for these things as if the value was real. This bothers me a lot. It bothers me a whole bunch because you have to understand the purity of divinity in order to understand the direction of divine knowledge. And that purity is what keeps you in a value in your mind to separate things that happens in life. You only start accepting the crossover when you go in disobedience against divine. This is when you start saying, oh wow, I didn't know. Well, divine blinds you to it because the choice you made is like he blinds different individuals because they chose to go against him. Why would divine give you access to this knowing when you're going to be disobedient anyway? I ain't gonna go deep on this right here. I just wanted to give y'all something to think about because I have a lot more to say about it, but Divine is telling me to let it go right here. He's like, let it go. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a war I fought. And I'm still battling that war to give them an opportunity. And at the end of the day, everything has penance. So I ain't gonna hold you, but I love you. No matter how you feel about me, I love you. Naga love you. We still gonna keep grinding. We gonna keep going. You know what I'm saying? All praise due to the Most High. You already know the vibes.